The following clip is from the North to South Show, live every Monday and Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, where we talk SEC football everything. We'd love to have you out next show, but for now, hit the like button down below, hit the subscribe button, and enjoy this clip.
Texas A&M last year, what else can I say, but they got absolutely robbed of a playoff spot last year. If you saw my playoff reaction, there is no question that you saw the disappointment. I'm not even a Texas A&M fan. You saw the disappointment on my face that Texas A&M was not put into that playoff spot because they're better than Notre Dame. Texas A&M goes out. They lose a ton of offensive linemen this year. They lose Kellen Mond. Is this Texas A&M team? Let's not forget, a team that finished in the top 4 in the AP poll last year. Yes, they didn't make it to the playoffs, but still, after the AP poll saw that Notre Dame was not that good of a team last year, and they did not perform well in the playoffs, Texas A&M was a top 4 team, and they were deserving. Is Texas A&M going to be able to match the performance that they had last year? And what if I even say, is Texas A&M going to be able to win the SEC West? Because let's break it down. So Alabama this season, Alabama's the favorite. Alabama's the favorite in all of college football. They still lose a ton of weapons. Like, yes, Mac Jones is going to go tomorrow. We got Devontae Smith going tomorrow. Jalen Waddle going tomorrow. Najee Harris, Christian Barmore. You could have Landon Dickerson or Alex Leatherwood going in the draft tomorrow. Patrick Surtain. Tons of great talent going in the NFL draft tomorrow. So Alabama's losing talent, but they're still bringing in a lot of good guys. You look at Bryce Young coming in for his first season as the starter at Alabama. He should have a great year there. You look at some of the receivers that they have there. You look at John Mechie, Ajayi Hall. You look at the running back, Brian Robinson. Alabama's core is still there. The defense, yes, it could use some work still. It's usually a work in progress, and they usually get better as the season goes on. But for the most part, this Alabama team as a whole is here to be dominant and be good next year. But let's say Alabama's not what we think they are. Alabama had a struggle with the reload. The defense isn't clicking at all. They're letting up 30-plus points each and every game, and the offense just isn't putting up the same production that we saw from Mac Jones last year, Tua the year before, and all that. Where does this division lie? Who is a contender for this division? Even if Alabama's at full strength, who is a contender for this division? That's where Texas A&M comes in. If Alabama isn't at full strength, my contenders are number 1, of course, Texas A&M. I think LSU's going to have a huge bounce back year. Whoever they put in at quarterback, I think it's going to be Miles Brennan. They just got so much talent on that team that it is too hard to not say that they're not a contender. Yes, last year was terrible for LSU. They did not have a good season at all, but I think that they will definitely have a rebound year. And then my last team in there, kind of as a dark horse, Ole Miss. Ole Miss, I think, offensively is definitely going to be there. Obviously, the defense was atrocious last year, but they lose some weapons. You lose like Kenny Yeboah and you lose Elijah Moore on that offense. But overall, I think Ole Miss is still a really, really good football team. And I had Matt Corral as being my best quarterback in the SEC, so I think Ole Miss has a chance. You look at Arkansas, I think Arkansas is just out of being in this conversation. I think Arkansas is still going to make a tremendous step up from what they were last year, but I still think that they're just missing a few key pieces. But Sam Pittman is definitely having that program trended in the right direction. And then I just don't think it's Mississippi State or Auburn's year. Obviously, Auburn's working with Brian Harsin in his first year. I think there's just too much to figure out there. And Mississippi State is Mississippi State. I didn't think that they were the best team last year, although the first game of the season said otherwise. Just going through some of the things that you watched from this spring game and going into the season, some notes that you're going to have for Texas A&M going into the season. Quarterback, I want to know Texas A&M fans, Haynes King, or do you like Calzada as your quarterback? Overall, watching this spring game, I'll pull up the stats here. 16 for 31 for Haynes King for 211 yards, 1 touchdown, where you had Calzada going 19 for 40, 253 yards for 1 touchdown. Overall, just watching that game, regardless of what tier of defense they're going up against, whether you're going up a first team or second team, Haynes King looked like the most comfortable guy and the guy that you want as your quarterback going into the season. Now, there's still lots to change from now until kickoff, which is coming up in September. Gotta wait out the summer, guys. We'll make it. We'll make it strong. Football will be back. But I think there's a reason why Jimbo and a lot of guys in this Texas A&M program have the faith and have the confidence that Haynes King will be the guy for this program. And overall, I think he definitely looked the most comfortable. Looking at the spring game as well, and I'm not only basing this off of the spring game, like you knew that this was going to happen with the losses that you have. The offensive line and pass protect was atrocious in this spring game. And you kind of knew that this was going to happen because You lose some key offensive linemen, which Texas A&M last year, like look at their offensive line. They had one of the most successful rushing games and pass protections of the whole SEC, if not college football in total. You lose 3 guys out of there, and things are going to change. You're going to have new guys, inexperienced guys come in, and it's really showing. Now, it could just be credit to, in this spring game, that Texas A&M's defensive line is going to be one of the strengths for sure on this team. It's still tough to look at and be like, this team really, really needs to protect a quarterback, especially Haynes King going into his first season under the helms for Texas A&M, leading this team out. So offensive line is definitely going to be a liability this season, but it's not the end of the world for Texas A&M, because you look at the backfield, Isaiah Spiller and Aniyah Smith, I hate saying this because, as you could see the 2 Gamecock jerseys behind me. I'm a big South Carolina fan. Kevin Harris and Marshawn Lloyd, and now Zaquandre White, who had a big spring game. I think that that running back room in South Carolina is absolutely amazing. I look at Georgia. I think theirs is completely amazing with Zamir White. You got James Cook. I think both of those teams have amazing running back rooms. But I look at this Texas A&M one, and I'm like, wow, that is a pretty good room. Those 2 guys you got right there. So lots of rushing game to be relied on. Yes, you need an offensive line to help with that rushing game, but if you have 2 really talented guys like that, it definitely helps how your offensive line will perform this season in the rushing game. Defensive line is starting to pick up where they left off. I think that it is obvious. You saw in that spring game, and just Texas A&M had one of the best defensive performances out of any SEC team last season. I think DeMarvin Leal is going to be the guy who, for teams to be not great, but for you to be an established playoff team, you need at least one guy to get national attention and just be that guy who's like, this is going to be a top 10 pick in the draft. This guy is going to be something in the future. And I think Leal is that guy. I've seen tons of mock drafts, and I will hint to a video that I'm going to be releasing on Thursday. So tomorrow after the draft, I plan to my way too early 2022 NFL mock draft, and I have Leal going in the top 10 because I think he's that good. So I think he needs to be that guy. You got to have some big dog on this defense, and I really feel like DeMarvin Leal is going to be that guy for Texas A&M. Keys to beating the West, and here are my notes I have in, what do you call those, asterisks, cough, beating Bama, because beating Bama is going to be the key to winning this West for Texas A&M. I just have some stats here. First off, in my notes, I said the offensive line has to step up for sure. I think that that's a given. I've already talked about that, how Texas A&M needs to do in the pass protect game, because it was not good in the spring game, and it can be worked on. Tons of progress can be made from now until kickoff, but it's definitely got to step up, especially when you have a new quarterback on. You have to be able to put up 40-plus points on any given Saturday. I think you start out, I can't remember who they play first game, but I know after they got Colorado, and then you got another out-of-conference team, and then you got Arkansas and Mississippi State. Those Arkansas and Mississippi State games, especially an SEC game, you have to put up 40-plus points. I'm telling you, because you cannot just go scoring 28 points, winning the game still because your defense plays really well, but you can't go winning those games with only 28 points under your belt for your offense and then go into the Alabama game and just expect a miracle to happen. That's not how it works against Alabama. These guys need to put an emphasis on putting up 40-plus point games. And I look here. Texas A&M last season, 4 40-plus point games for Texas A&M. You know how many Alabama had? 11. And one of those was a Notre Dame game that was just extremely well clock managed to not allow Alabama to run up the scoreboard, to keep the scoreboard somewhat close. The other game was Missouri for Alabama. Stress in the first 5 games. Can't expect to do it. Again, I said you can't expect to just miraculously come up with 40-plus points against Alabama if you can't do it against Colorado, against Arkansas, against Mississippi State. I think Texas A&M definitely has the talent, and I hate saying this in every single video, where this team is capable of doing it. Now, really, any team is capable of winning the West this year, but I think it would be more favorable to say Texas A&M outside of Alabama is the most favorable to do so. They are just going to need that Saturday where Alabama comes into town. It lines up perfectly for them that Alabama does come to College Station this season. You're going to have to get after Bryce Young. You're going to have to get after him make some rookie mistakes. Your defense is going to have to make some big turnovers. But if Texas A&M is hot this year, and I think if Haynes King just can really prove that he is the guy at Texas A&M, no questions asked, Texas A&M will have a shot for this SEC West. I guarantee you that they will be a contender this year.